Good morning, Phoenix. This is your host, Kyle Smith. And stepping in for Jose this morning is my father, Joseph Smith.
Good morning, everybody, especially my beautiful daughters, Brianna and Rebecca.
And just to hold your questions, no, he's not Mormon. Anyways, how's everyone's morning? How's your morning, sir?
Fantastic.
Good. We start off today with a Me Too-esque story. Lately, two women who have served under various campaigns or things like that have accused Joe Biden of inappropriate touching. These accusations come from Amy Lapos and DJ Hill. And really, there's not a whole lot there. I feel some people are trying to make it a bigger deal than it is. He hasn't been accused of anything illegal, just kind of being creepy and being handsy. But the thing is, we've always known that. There's plenty of compilations on YouTube. He's been videotaped multiple times of being real handsy. And this is really nothing new.
Well, the amazing thing for me is you have these women coming forward at this time after years, which is fine, and complaining that they felt uncomfortable. They didn't say anything at the time, which I think they should have. But for me, and this is all anybody wants to talk about, but for me, the bigger issue and the more creepy issue is all the video evidence and pictures of creepy Uncle Joe and minor girls, and yet nobody's really talking about that. They want to talk about grown women who felt uncomfortable because he touched their shoulders or smelled their hair.
Oh, but that's the same kind of thing he'd do with younger girls, and it's weird looking. He's yet to be ever accused of anything like further sexual harassment than that, or rape or anything like that. He's just been accused of being weird, being creepy.
Well, and when you look at a lot of the videos of him with the underage girls, you see most of them like pulling away. They're smart enough to know to get away from it, while the adult women stand there, allow it to happen, and then years later say, oh, he made me feel uncomfortable.
I mean, I would feel uncomfortable too if you just had Joe Biden just rubbing up his hands up your back, up to your shoulders. Yeah, the timing is odd. He is expected to eventually announce that he's running for president. He's number one in the polls, even though he hasn't announced. I have absolutely no evidence of this, so don't hold me to it. But I smell that there might be some cash involved in this. I think that Joe Biden is looked at as more moderate than someone like Bernie Sanders or other Democrats. And yet, so for supposedly having such a far left base, yet he's polling first. And I think they might want to preemptively strike and try and trip him up before he even announces.
Well, it is funny because the left talks about diversity, and yet the top three candidates right now in polls is Joe Biden, number one, who hasn't even announced he's running, old white guy. Crazy Bernie Sanders, old white socialist. And Mayor Pete, whatever his last name is, out of Indiana, white guy. Hey, left, where's your diversity that you keep screaming about?
Well, yeah, there's that, but also kind of the diversity of thought issue. I mean, Joe Biden's record, he's voted for anti-immigration laws. He's voted for, he said in the past that he's against abortion. He doesn't exactly fit into the current mold, or what's perceived as the current mold, and I think they just want to take him out ideologically. He doesn't fit into the times or the system, and I think that's the narrative being portrayed. Even the New York Times headline, quote, "The Wrong Time for Biden" by Michelle Goldberg. And it basically makes the case that no, he's not a sexual predator, but he's still not right for the Democratic Party because he's too white, he's too male, and he's too old.
It's funny that they keep saying he's not the right candidate, but he's leading in their polls while having not even announced that he's running. And I think everybody's basing it off of the far left radical base of the Democratic Party, but yet I believe the reason he's leading in the polls is because there is that old school, moderate liberal out there who, just like in 2016, when asked who they were voting for, on the right would not say they were voting for Donald Trump because they didn't want to be shamed and excoriated for voting, and that's why the poll numbers showed what they did before the election, and then Donald Trump ends up winning the election. So there are a lot of moderate liberals out there who are keeping their mouth shut because they don't want to be judged and lectured by this radical leftist base.
Yeah. The problem with the narrative that some people are pushing about being too old and out of touch is that Joe Biden actually isn't helping absolve that narrative. After these accusations, he put out a video response where he apologized for basically being.
Well, actually, he didn't apologize. If you watch the video, there's no apology.
He didn't really apologize, but he talks about how things have changed and the culture has changed, which I don't think. I mean, that's not really an excuse. Yeah, he may not have done anything illegal, but that's not an excuse to violate people's personal spaces. I certainly don't want to be touched by old dudes. Even though John McCain, one time when I was working in his campaign, he did put his hands on my shoulders in the bathroom, and he told me that I was a part of his Navy, which was, I mean, it was weird, but I didn't mind it. But anyways,
wow, you just admitted that in public.
Yeah, I did. But also in his video response, he brings up how the culture has changed, which again doesn't really help the too old and out of touch narrative. But also he, like an example, he brings up kids are taking selfies now, and yada yada. But it also presents that like he's not in touch with the younger generation. That really doesn't help the narrative. Not only that, but it's totally unnecessary. I don't know how bringing that up helps your campaign at all. Just say, hey, look at me, I don't understand current culture. Like, I don't know why you say anything that makes you seem obsolete or. And here's the thing: is Hillary Clinton tried to do the same thing, which I would say admitting that you're not hip, quote unquote hip with the times or something, is slightly better than what Hillary Clinton did, which she tried to do really cringy stuff like Pokemon Go to the polls and things like that. She was trying too hard. But I would still say Biden just randomly just saying stuff how he doesn't understand current culture doesn't help him at all. But at least honesty is a little better than what Hillary Clinton did.
Well, it's funny because he puts out the video and he didn't, if you watch it, he didn't apologize at all. He really just justifies his behavior because he comes from a time where that was acceptable. And then he goes right out to his next speaking engagement and makes fun of it. It's like you really aren't in touch with the times, and whoever's campaign manager is better kind of get that under control a little bit.
Yeah, well, I'll defend him in that I don't think people should equate him to a rapist or sexual predator or anything. But again, I've said he is creepy, and he shouldn't be invading people's personal space that obviously are weirded out by it. But transitioning into being in with the times, someone who is actually and isn't really thought of as being into it, but really is President Trump. There's not a whole lot that someone doesn't ask him a question about like something current. He's like, oh, what's that? Like, During his campaign, he had a Q&A on Reddit, which is an image discussion board website used mostly by younger people. He puts out jokes and memes all the time, including this Joe Biden meme that my dad actually sent me before President Trump tweeted out. It's his apology video, and then it's Joe Biden coming up behind himself and then massaging his shoulders. It's pretty funny. And Trump tweeted that out, and he's like, "Welcome back, Joe." And then obviously people on Twitter and mainstream media wrote articles about it because the left isn't not much. There are large swaths of the left that aren't humorous. And,
no sense of humor.
Yeah, and they don't
not any sense of humor. Zero.
The funny thing is they talk about Joe Biden being out of touch when then they show this. It's like if you I don't know, were kind of annoyed by Trump's meme, then like the response would be to joke back in a certain way, not to just get mad and like, oh, look at what Donald Trump's doing. This meme is inappropriate. And the same thing happened during the election when he put out that gif of when Donald Trump was in the WWE and he's beating up on Vince McMahon. But the video had, in Vince McMahon's face, it was the CNN logo instead. And CNN was so offended that they actually found the creator of that meme and threatened to put out his information if he didn't apologize. This was back in 2016? 2015, 2016. And Donald Trump, look, there's still a lot of young people that don't like him for, the politics, but he's hilariously entertaining, and I think that has earned him a lot of voters just simply on that part. That's put him over the top. That's what elected him, was his personality. And you pose that to people on the left, like Hillary Clinton, who was a robot.
Well, a couple things that's funny because Donald Trump always tells you he's not a politician, and it's obviously he's not, because he actually keeps his campaign promises, which no politician ever does. They lie to our faces, get in office, and then grease the palms of all their rich buddies. But the funny thing about that Joe Biden meme was then Joe Biden tweeted out something to the effect of, obviously you're on the job, so presidential. Well, Joe, if you're going to tweet that back, is really rubbing up on women and young girls, was that vice presidential of you?
Well, here's the thing, as I think there are certain times Trump should just quiet himself a little bit, but overall his personality is a positive. The only person on the left in office that I can think of that competes personality wise is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, unfortunately. She has a lot of young following. When she live streams herself and talking, just making dinner, people find it genuine. Unlike
why?
I mean, she in that same live stream, she said we were all going to die in 12 years, but young people like her because she's young and knows what she's doing. Now, I think she's too dumb, she's too pessimistic, too angry, and not humorous enough to actually go anywhere besides being a representative. But for the small following she does have, they're very passionate and they connect with her for some reason. Unlike Elizabeth Warren, who tried to do that same thing just a few months back. She has just a live stream in her home and she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go get a beer," and no one thought it was genuine. She's just an old woman trying to copy Cortez and younger people. But there are more people than just Trump. There's people like Senator Mike Lee, who he's not live streaming from his home or anything, but in Congress just weeks ago, for anyone who hasn't heard, he had an entire speech that was just satirizing the Green New Deal. He brought up on the floor a giant picture of Ronald Reagan riding a velociraptor with the American flag. He's talking about how great our victory was in the Cold War, and how this photo had as much to do with the Cold War as the Green New Deal has to do with climate change. And he had more pictures of what are we going to do without cars? Oh, we'll ride tauntauns and these giant seahorses out of Aquaman. And it's just he just went on 10 minutes with a straight face of satirizing the Green New Deal with just these giant cutouts of just meme photos. And that's something that's an entertainment value that people love. Just kind of like you also look at the right. There's someone like Alex Jones versus someone like Cenk Uygur from TYT. I kind of put them on the same scale of just kind of partisanry and then conspiracy theories. But the thing is, why people love Alex Jones is because even if the people that don't take him seriously, they love his entertainment value. They love the guy. I love the guy. I don't take him seriously. He has a serious point every now and again, but I love him. Whereas Cenk Uygur is just angry, yelling at the camera when things don't go his way. And Alex Jones yells at the camera too, but it's always in almost like a satirical, humorous way, whereas Cenk Uygur is just genuinely just butthurt all the time.
I don't watch Alex Jones. I don't watch the Young Turks, so I couldn't really tell you. But I will say this, if you're going to say about some guy from the Young Turks being angry, it's true. It's like, what the left, why are you always so angry? Good Lord, man, life is beautiful. Lighten up.
Well, the real Young Turks of the late 1800s were so angry that they killed the Armenians. But but moving on from that, the left is angry all the time, and people like to vote for someone who looks like they're having fun. And Donald Trump most of the time looks like he's having fun, and the left almost never does. Even on late shows like Stephen Colbert, he's supposed to be making jokes. He doesn't look like he's having fun doing it, not to mention that he's not funny. But everything has like a sting of like, I'm upset, rather than it totally being humorous. And that turns a lot of people off. It's not a good energy to follow. You know, people kind of push away from that sort of negative energy. Like, people could have the same gripes with Trump, but if they just changed how they went about it, I think more people would listen.
Hey, you can have your opinion. That's the beauty of America. You can have your opinion on everything and anything. And if you want to criticize Donald Trump, that's your right. That's awesome. But at the same time, when somebody on the left does the same thing, will you stop doing that 8-year-old excuse and that 8-year-olds give, and it's like, well, that's different. No, it's not different. It's the same. Have a moral standard. I know that's hard for a lot of you on the left. Your morals are whichever way the wind's blowing today. Whatever supports today's narrative is what you believe. But try to have a moral standard and hold everybody to that same standard.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, going back to AOC, who as of right now is the only person I see kind of with that personality to get people really passionate. But even I don't think she's going to go very far with her. Well, first of all, her politics are horrible.
She's an idiot.
Yeah, she's dumb. But even with her personality, I think it only can go so far because she's kind of shrieks like a banshee, and she's too pessimistic, too angry. Like with Mike Lee, when he had that speech, she said, "If this guy can be senator, you can do anything." And to other critics of the Green New Deal just a few days ago, she said, "I pity your role in history right now." There's no positivity or even a joke in that. It's just her being mad, and that can only get you so far. Just raging out at your critics with no actual point. Because Trump does the same thing with the media, but he throws in actual humor in there, and kind of he's a point most of the time. But this is just complaining from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and that'll rile up your base to get all passionate like, the right. I hate the right. But other than those fans you've already made, you're not gonna add any one, and she's never going to get more power than just being a representative.
Well, all you have to do is let this sink in. This is her saying, people on the right are more concerned with being factually correct than morally right. Let that sink in. You're more absorbed with the truth than listening to what this bubblehead has to say, because she wants to be your moral arbiter.
Yeah. Moving on, because there are a few Democrats that do have a moral compass and are actually.
There's more than a few.
Well,
It's the silent majority.
Well, here's
out there.
the thing. The Democrats, which I was about to make this point, the Democrats are a party. I won't say that everyone who's left of center is the same as a Democrat, because the Democrat's a party, and you could be left of center and not a Democrat. I'm just saying the Democratic Party specifically. But there are people like Tulsi Gabbard, who just the other day put out a Twitter video talking about how she does think the American people have a right to the Mueller report, and she's hoping it comes out soon. But that ultimately, that she believes, as Mueller stated, that Robert Mueller didn't find collusion, and that's ultimately a good thing for America. And then because he didn't find that collusion, that ultimately the Democrats should just move on, try to heal things, and be productive, which got met with her getting ripped on Twitter, not only just by random people, but by the blue check marks, which at this point, blue check marks are basically random people that you've never heard of. But that's just the thing, is they want to stick on this Russia thing, and it's not going to work because most people just see it as it's whatever at this point. I think most people were done with the whole Mueller report months and months ago, even before it came out, just because it taken so long and not really produced anything as far as the collusion went. But there are still people like Rachel Maddow, who is promoting
that dude always has a conspiracy theory.
Yeah, who's promoting a march and protest for the Mueller report to be released. I just don't think the Russia thing was never a winning point, and it's obviously not now.
Well, we've heard for 2 years. First of all, we've heard for 2 years that wait till the Mueller report comes out. Wait till the Mueller report comes out. Mueller report comes out, no collusion by Donald Trump or anybody in the campaign, and it's like, now we don't believe Robert Mueller. And first of all, don't look at me. I'm not a Robert Mueller fan, even with these findings. That scumbag knew. The FBI knew there was no collusion. This was a whole made-up narrative that we have now spent millions upon millions of tax dollars. He knew 6 months into the investigation there was no collusion. He should have put out his report then. But that scumbag and all his Hillary lovers went on, just racking up dollars charged to the American people when he knew there was no collusion. So I'm no fan of Robert Mueller, but not for the reasons that you left are no fan of Robert Mueller.
I want to read a quote from Representative Stephanie Murray, Democrat out of Florida. She's a Vietnamese war refugee, because there are Democrats like Tulsi Gabbard and Representative Murphy that I do respect. I just want to read this quote. She said, "I am offended by this whole conversation about socialism. Capitalism is a system that built us the greatest nation and the greatest economy in the world. It is not the moment to undo the whole system and embrace something that Americans have spent blood and treasure fighting to save other countries from." If the Democratic Party can get back to that just sort of left of center mentality, very pro-America, very it's kind of liberalism is supposed to be a focus on actual liberty rather than identity politics and otherwise, the Democrats could take all the power back. And if they were to actually change that, I might start voting for Democrats. But the problem is that people like Gillibrand and Representative Murphy seem to be in the minority nowadays.
Wait, did you just say Gillibrand?
Did I say Gillibrand?
You did.
Oh, I meant
you meant Tulsi Gabbard.
I meant
Because
Tulsi
Gillibrand
Gabbard. Okay,
is a full-fledged idiot.
Yeah, okay, Tulsi Gabbard. If they can get back to those sort of politics, the politics of someone like JFK, I think that the Democrats will do well. It outright be healthier for the country. If they stay on the path they currently are, I don't really see a very kind of connected future that we have. I'm not saying that we're going to have a civil war or anything. I'm just saying that this, I don't see an end to this sort of division unless we can just get it together and stop dividing on sort of identity and always looking to call people names. Just everyone's a racist. Everyone's this or that. Unless we stop that, we don't really have a healthy social dichotomy in the future.
Well, if you think that Donald Trump or any Republican leadership listens to the far-right extremist, you're delusional. But I know that fuels your narrative and your hate, so you keep putting it out there, but you're delusional. But your leadership in the Democrat Party listens to the far-left radicals. We know this because they repeat all their same talking points. And if you love socialism so much, Venezuela's calling. You can take the next flight out of town.
Yeah. A lot of the far right kind of hates a lot of Republicans because of their positions on Israel and Jews. A lot of the far right and the far left too aren't big fans of Jews, and I'd say there is more far left influence on the Democratic Party than there is far right influence on Republicans. There are people like this was weeks ago. I already mentioned Steve King, who he said he's not racist, but I'll even say he's made racist statements, or that he's made light of white supremacy and things like that, and I'll outright condemn that because, and I'm not politically correct or anything. But I feel like he was saying.
Steve King got some issues.
Yeah, he's got some issues, and I'll call out both conservative, liberal, right or left if they're in the wrong, and I called out on this show. This is, I think, our Jose and I's first or second show. We talked about Steve King and condemned him. So I try to stay open-minded on the show.
Well, now that my mind goes blank that I can't recall this guy's name, but the state senator here that found out that he had paid underage boys for sex way back in, I think it was like the 70s or whatever, and they found out about it. He was a Republican. He was forced out of the state legislature by fellow Republicans. Where you see Democrats will always defend a Democrat, and I'm going to give you a perfect example. With absolutely no corroborating evidence or witnesses, the Democrats believed Ballsy Ford and attacked Brett Kavanaugh with his nomination for the Supreme Court. Yet Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax from Virginia, who is a Democrat, has 2 outstanding rape allegations against him. Where's Denang Dick Blumenthal? Where's Mazie Geronimo? Where's Kamala Harris? Where's Bug-Eyed Cory Booker standing out there saying, these women need to be heard, and we believe them? Oh, wait, he's got a D in front of his name, therefore, Me Too is nowhere to be found.
Well, you don't have to go to someone as small as him. You could just go back to Bill Clinton.
Bill Clinton had actually had the leftist media, which is basically almost all of media, hiding the story. Tells you all you need to know.
Yeah.
The enemy, and they are the enemy of the people.
Yeah. Well, that's all the time we have today. Tune in next week for our next show. Jose should be back. It'll be a regular scheduled show.
Yeah, you lucky people.
Yeah, thank you to my dad for filling in.
My pleasure. To all our people out in Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, that liberal stronghold of Massachusetts, and to my boy Craig Wells.
My dad certainly brings in a flair that Jose doesn't have. So tune in next week. Thank you, and everyone have a good day.